If these problems are because of me, then I'm capable of fixing these problems.
Jocko Willink is a former Navy SEALs officer
who uses his decades of military training to help people become masters of discipline and master their lives.
Leadership strategy and tactics that you can apply to business and you can apply to your life as well. This is what I learned from 20 years of being in the Navy SEALs. Discipline, drive, how to make decisions under pressure. That was the lowest point of my life.
You talked about the role that having a why plays. And I was thinking about, if I just lost my girlfriend or someone, I'd gone through some severe rejection or someone in my life had died and my parting promise to them was I was going to do this. The role that having some kind of reason to carry on plays in how we handle adversity or things that suck. Have you seen any patterns in that? Is it important? Because there's books behind me that literally say start with your why and those kinds of things.
Yeah. And, that's anything from, oh, my girlfriend dumped me and I'm going to prove her wrong, to something that much more significant, which is my girlfriend died and I told her I was going to do this and I'm going to do it for her. Both those things, depending on the human being, can be a strong enough why to get through. And I have friends that I have one friend that was in Vietnam. He was in Vietnam, and when he showed up to SEAL training, he didn't know what it was. He thought he was volunteering to be like a diver, a diver that would do construction under boats. He thought that what it was, and so he showed up, and they're like, "This is SEAL training." He's like, "What's a SEAL?" And they kind of explained it to him, and then he went and made it through. All that torture, all that mayhem, and why? Because that was what they were telling him to do, and he was, okay, that's what we're doing. Let's go. So again, I would love to be able to, give you this profound anchor that people need to have. But it's like, oh, do you want to do this or not? Which is what I think a lot of it boils down to. Do you actually want to do this or not? Do you actually want to do this or not? Because if you actually want to do it, what's going to stop you? Nothing. And if you don't really want to do it, what's going to stop you? Just about anything that comes up. Just about any obstacle that gets in your way becomes an excuse. It becomes a reason. It becomes a rationale for not proceeding down that path. And this is interesting too. When you talk to people that went to SEAL training that didn't make it, most of the time it's some reason. There's a medical reason. There's a family problem. There's very few people that look at you and say, oh, I quit because it sucked. Which is what happens to the vast majority of people. The vast majority of people that don't make it through SEAL training, and by this I mean 80, 90% of the people that don't make it through SEAL training, they didn't make it through because they quit. Then there's a small percentage that had a medical problem, and then there's a small percentage that got performance dropped, meaning they couldn't perform the runs, the swims, the technical aspects of the job, and they failed, and they get dropped. But the vast majority of people, they quit, but they don't usually say that. And even in their mind, they probably don't believe it. They probably believe, well, it was my leg, and once my leg was hurting, I knew I was going to have a hard time on the runs, and since I wasn't going to be able to make the runs, that's why I quit. But it wasn't really quitting, it was because of my leg. So it's like I said, it's a very strange and really kind of a mystical thing.
Excuses. You're talking there about people making excuses.
Yeah.
What have you come to learn about the nature of excuses and if they are our friends, our enemies, if they're ever useful?
Your excuses will destroy you and take everything that you ever wanted from you if you let them.
Doesn't sound like a friend.
No, it's definitely not a friend. It's definitely not a friend. It can seem like a friend, just like your friend that keeps feeding you drinks at the bar can seem like a friend. But are they really helping you in any way, shape, or form? No, they're not. They're not. So when your excuses make you feel a little bit better about the fact that you didn't execute on what you needed to execute on, then they can make you feel better. But they're not helping you. They're not helping you at all.
Is that what you when you think about extreme ownership, which is the title of this book here in front of me, are excuses the opposite? Excuses and blame, is that the opposite of extreme ownership?
That is the opposite of extreme ownership. Extreme ownership is, this went wrong, this failed, didn't accomplish this, And it's not the fault of my boss. It's not the fault of my girlfriend. It's not the fault of my parents. It's not the fault of the weather. It's my fault. And I'm going to take ownership of it and I'm going to fix it. That's what extreme ownership is. And this is a very difficult thing to do because it hurts. Because when you look around at your life and you look around at your job and your financial situation and your relationship and your physical health, and when you look at all those things and all the problems that you may have with those things, and you say, the reason I have all those problems is because of me, that can hurt. That can sting. And a lot of times our ego rejects that and makes excuses and lies. And then we don't have to change anything. And then nothing changes.
If someone was on the extreme end of that disease of excuse and blame and all of those things, is there anything that you could do or you would advise them to do to kind of walk back from there, to get over the other side? Because I think we can all think of people in our lives, and maybe even ourselves at times, who have gotten into a chronic pattern of using excuses and blame as a form of self-defense because we don't want to turn that mirror back at us and have to confront reality. Like, I think sometimes, if I think about some of my closest friends, those that have the lowest self-esteem will use excuses and blame the most because it's, personal responsibility might not, in the short term at least, do anything for my already low self-esteem. So I'm going to blame the world as self-defense. What's step one to get out of that?
Well, unfortunately, what happens a lot, and you may or may not have seen this, but I would assume you've seen this at some point in your life, people, and this is a term, there's a term, it's rock bottom, right? This is a term that we hear for someone that's addicted, someone that's an alcoholic, someone that's physically let themselves go, someone that's put themselves into a situation with their finances or their work or whatever, where they reach rock bottom. But when the excuses all go away and people can actually confront the fact that this is all because of me, and it hurts, but is also unbelievably empowering, because if these problems are because of me, then I'm capable of fixing these problems. So even though extreme ownership hurts and is painful, it's also liberating, because now you have control over your fate and over your destiny, and that is a glorious thing.
Is that to you how you start to build confidence? Confidence seems to be this really elusive thing. Confidence ultimately is a belief you have, and these beliefs are like instruction manuals for our life. You must have seen in your all your years, some people really build their confidence, and I guess you've seen other people destroy their confidence. Mm-hmm. So what is the nature of how we build our own confidence?
Yep, you're right. I have seen it, and I've had to do it to people. I had to take people and build their confidence. And so how do you do that? If you're a young officer in the SEAL teams and you feel like maybe you kind of got here, you got lucky, you barely made it through training, and all of a sudden I'm saying, hey, you're in charge of this squad right here, and you don't feel like you have the confidence to do it. And so it comes time to make a decision, and you're sort of looking around, and the guys are looking at you like, hey, you're going to make a call or what? And finally someone just steps on you and says, hey, I got it. Hey, everyone move over to this building. And now your confidence goes down even lower, which is the problem. So how am I going to build your confidence? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you and I'll put you into a situation that I know you can handle. I'm going to give you a task that I know you can do. Look, it's not going to be a total softball. It's not going to be a joke of a task, but I'm going to give you something that I know you can handle. And I'm going to let you do that. And I might let you do that 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I might say, hey, on this next operation, Steven, I want you to, you're going to hold the left flank with your squad. Everyone else is assaulting buildings. They're setting up external screen. You just hold this. You just set your team up on this berm over here and watch to the north. And look, this is a pretty easy job, all right? And so you go out there, you take your team, you get on the berm, you look to the north. You do a good job. Confidence goes up a little bit. Now, look, there was no pressure. You didn't have to make any decisions, but you did what you were supposed to do. And I might have you do that 2 or 3 times. And then the next time I say, hey, you know what? Hey, good job out there. I'm going to build up your confidence a little bit. And then I'm going to say, hey, I need you to handle security to the north and to the west. All right, so you're going to have 2 squads now. So I'm just going to give you small tasks that I know you can handle to build up your confidence. And over time, you will become more and more confident, and you're going to hit some challenges, and you'll overcome those challenges. And if you do, great, your confidence will grow. If you fail in a challenge, I might have to reset you a little bit. But this sounds like a big, long process, but it's actually usually not that long. It's actually, people kind of nod their head. Oh yeah, I can do this. Contrarily, sometimes I get a guy who's overconfident. And, I got Steven walking here like, you're darn right I should be in charge. And what do I do with you? Because now you got an ego, you're not listening to people. Now I'm like, hey, Steven, since you're doing so awesome, why don't you run this whole assault team tonight? And you go, yeah, no problem. And then you get out there and you're not ready to lead a whole assault team. You're not ready for that chaos and that confusion and that mayhem. And so about halfway through the assault, when you've completely lost control, I might walk in and say, hey, Steven, I'm sending Chief down there to straighten you out. And you go, Roger, thank you. And you get humbled. So if someone's trying to build confidence from a work perspective, we do the same thing, whether it's a business, a company, give that person a task, a project that they can handle and help them build their confidence. Now, as far as you as an individual human being, it's a very similar process. Train, study, work, practice. Train, study, work, practice. Train, study, work, practice. And eventually, you will increase your confidence. So in your book, you were talking about the fact that you didn't like speaking. You didn't like public speaking. So what did you do? Did you sign up to go talk in front of 1,000 people, tomorrow afternoon? No, you started small and you built a little bit of confidence. And then you win a little bit bigger of an audience and the confidence grows a little bit more. A little bit bigger audience, the confidence grows, and you get to a point where there's no audience that's going to stumble you in any way. So that's the same process. It's basically exposure therapy, right? It's basically exposure therapy where you expose yourself to a little bit. And this is, you're talking about Jordan Peterson, exposure therapy. I give you a little bit. I don't overwhelm you with it, because if I overwhelm you with it, you're going to be scared of it. I mean, if you lack confidence and I put you in charge of something that you can't handle, your confidence is going to go back even further. So I need to give you enough exposure that you do well, increase your confidence, and you're going to do fine.
I think it's really important because as men, we get conflicting messages about emotion and how to express it and what that looks like, and if there's weakness to certain emotions, or if, but the psychology seems to be pretty clear that the suppression of these emotions, the trying to hide them, the total compartmentalizing of them doesn't actually make them go away. They just appear somewhere else in a bottle or in some kind of recreational drug or somewhere else. So,
and nor does suppressing them isn't going to help, and nor is letting them run your life. So because you're sad, now you're going to make a bunch of bad decisions because you're sad. No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You're sad. Okay. You get emotional sometimes. Okay. Got it. Now get control of your emotions and carry on with your life. And sometimes you're going to get hit with those waves, and that's okay. I think that's a big misconception, and it sort of relates to what you're saying. Oh, I'm having an emotional moment right now. There's something wrong with me. No, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. The other extreme is, oh, I'm letting my emotions run my life and I'm making a bunch of bad decisions. And my excuse is, well, I lost some friends, or I had this traumatic experience happen to me. That's why I'm doing. That's just an excuse. And it's a very easy excuse. And in society, the last thing I want to say to you is, well, you can't act like that. Oh, you lost one of your friends? Hey, that doesn't mean you can make an excuse. You can't use that as an excuse. No, I go, hey, man, okay. That's what I say, right? I'm a polite person. I'm an empathetic person. You're sad. You're making bad decisions. You're saying it's because you lost your friend or you went through this traumatic thing. And I go, okay, how can I help? Instead of saying, hey, man, yeah, guess what? It's time to carry on. Don't dwell on the, I've told 1,000 veterans this. Remember, don't dwell. Remember your friends. Don't dwell in the past, though. Remember, don't dwell. That's what we have to do. And the emotions, yes. Embrace those emotions, but don't let those emotions embrace you. Don't let those emotions run your life. There is a, because people say, suppressing your emotions is bad. Okay, so I'm just going to let all these emotions out and they're going to run my life now. No. At a certain point, you say, okay, my emotions are now leading me down the wrong path. I'm in control. I'm not going to allow my emotions to make my decisions. They're in the calculus. I'm not saying take your emotions out of the calculus, but they have to be one component of your calculus, not the whole equation. The equation has to include emotions, yes. Logic, yes. Future, yes. Goals, yes. Family, yes. Work, yes. Finances, yes. All those things have to be in the calculus. Emotions has to be a part of that calculus. You can't pull them out of there or they'll bite you. But you can't make them the overwhelming denominator of everything that you do, or it's going to be problematic.
I heard you tell a story which I thought was really inspiring. Actually, I was just listening to it before you came, about a friend of yours who was going through hardship in their life, and your advice for them was to start walking.
Yeah. It was a guy who was, going through hardship with his job, with his marriage, and the marriage was coming to an end. The job was going to come to an end as well. And he's out there and doesn't know what to do. And the analogy that I set up for him is, if I'm in the woods, which is where you are right now, you're in the woods and you don't know where to go because the wife's not there anymore, the job's not there anymore, you don't know where to go right now. So if you're in the woods and you don't know where to go, start walking. You got to start walking because the perspective's not going to change. You have to start moving forward. You have to start taking steps in order to improve your vision, improve your perspective, change your perspective, make some kind of progress. And worst case scenario, you figure out that you walked the wrong direction. Okay, now you can go walk in the other direction. And that's going to be fine. But standing there lost and not doing anything is just waiting to die, waiting to starve to death. Don't let that happen.
Discipline is freedom. The title of your book here. Discipline equals freedom. Now that seems like it's untrue, because when people think of discipline, they think of rigidity and it taking away their freedom, having to be disciplined. Why does discipline equal freedom?
Because the more discipline you have in your life, the more freedom you will end up with. So if you lack the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up being a slave to disease. If you lack the discipline to work hard, save your money, you will end up a slave to finances. If you lack the discipline to manage your time correctly, you will end up with no free time. If you have self-discipline, if you have the discipline to save your money and work hard and invest your money properly, if you have the discipline to manage your time correctly and not waste a bunch of time, if you have the discipline to exercise and eat healthy, you will end up with freedom. And I know it's a counterintuitive, it's contrarian, but I've seen this over and over and over again. If you want freedom in your life, you have to have discipline.
There's going to be some kid listening to this now. I always think about the personas that are listening, and they are, eating Doritos off their belly.
Spit them out. Spit them out. Start now. Because if you're a kid right now and you're eating Doritos off your belly, I know they taste good and there's some immediate gratification, and I get that. But I'm going to tell you, it starts right now. Throw that bag of Doritos away. Get rid of it. Go do some push-ups. Go spend $12 at the hardware store and hang up a pull-up bar in your room and start doing pull-ups. And if you can't do one pull-up, hang on that bar. And you're going to start to get a little bit stronger. You're going to start to get a little bit healthier. You're going to start to get more focused. You're going to start to become more resilient. And you're going to start to be able to do a pull-up. And you're going to start to eat healthy all the time. And you're going to start to understand the world better. And you're going to start to progress in every aspect of your life. And you'll see that if you have that kind of discipline right now, you're going to end up with freedom. And if you don't have that kind of discipline, and you keep eating those Doritos, and you don't work hard, and you don't exercise, and you don't apply yourself, you're going to end up shackled. You're going to end up shackled by a boss that you don't like, doing a job that you don't like to do, with sicknesses and diseases that you don't want, relying on people that you can't even count on, alone. And you don't have to. But if you have discipline, you will attain freedom.
And it starts with just spitting the Doritos out.
Starts with spitting the Doritos out. Yes, indeed.
One of the things you do, which is, you're super famous for it, is this idea of waking up early. Now, I'm not someone that wakes up early.
I know you, no alarm clock, and you're usually up by 11.
So no meetings before 11.
Okay, got it.
I stay up quite late.
Yep.
What's the best case you could give me for changing that? And do I need to change that? Because what I do is, I flew into LA, I'm fucking jet lagged, I'm flying back in a couple of days, I'm going to be jet lagged when I land as well. So what I'm trying to do is just protect my sleep at all costs, because I've come to learn that it's really the foundation of my performance. So if I'm unslept and I show up at work, the chance that I'm not going to show up correctly in a variety of ways, emotionally, creatively, whatever, is high. And that for me is the greatest risk.
Yeah.
So I've in the last sort of year or two of my life, I've just said, okay, prioritize sleep, because then everything else seems to follow. But when I heard that you wake up sometimes at 4:45 or 4:30, like pretty much all the time, and I've literally seen you on social media upload your alarm clock day after day after day, I go, shit, maybe I should rethink.
No, I think if you've got a system that's working well for you, and then I wouldn't change anything, right? If you feel like you're performing well, you're physically healthy, you're getting all the work done that you need to do, you're a naturally more of a late night, late morning type person, I'd run with it. If you were telling me, yeah, sometimes I get up, sometimes I don't, sometimes I work late, sometimes I don't work out every day, sometimes I feel groggy. If you were telling me that kind of thing, I'd say, okay, pick a time and start waking up at that time every day. It doesn't have to be 4:40. It could be 8 o'clock, could be 7 o'clock. It doesn't matter. Could be 11 o'clock. But try and go to bed around the same time and try and wake up around the same time. And that's going to be a great foundation for everything that you're doing. And I would say when you wake up in the morning, do some kind of exercise, because I think that is very helpful in getting your day started correctly.
What are your non-negotiables in your life in terms of habits, routines, disciplines?
I wake up early and I work out every day. That's kind of those are the minimum requirements in my life. Train jiu-jitsu. I don't get to train jiu-jitsu every single day, but if I can train jiu-jitsu, I'm going to train jiu-jitsu. I'm going to work out every day. If I can surf, I'm going to surf. I obviously have to work every day. I work every day doing something. I've got a bunch of different companies. I got to write books, podcasts. So I work every day.
Are you ever undisciplined?
Oh, yeah. Chocolate chip cookies. Right? they're a discipline lapse for me. So I'm not a cyborg.
Question that's been left for you. If you could bring someone back who's no longer with us and have a conversation with them, who would it be and what would that conversation entail?
Well, I'd bring back Mark Lee, Mikey Mansour, and Ryan Job. And I'd tell them thank you.
Thank you. What would you be thanking them for?
Everything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for, the list is quite extensive, but thank you for putting your life on the line to make the world a better place. That's, I think, a level of gratitude and appreciation that we can't really express in words to people like you, that put your lives on the line and sometimes don't come back for more, and put your families through it, things that the average person, frankly, wouldn't be willing to do for the sake of an important cause. Thank you for that. Thank you on behalf of all of the people that will never be able to say it to you. Thank you for what you're doing in this chapter of your life, because you are, maybe whether you know it or not, you are saving, improving, and changing lives with everything you do, with your incredible podcast, with all the books you've written. You've written this, you're writing children's books as well now to try and help shift the mindset of people at the very, while they're still seeds and they're formative. And I think that's also going to change, improve lives. And thank you for all the inspiration you've given me over the years, because you'll never get to see all of the people who hear a line that you say, the way that you say it, the stories that you tell. And for some of those people, it's just the subtle nudge that they need to take that first step, to spit the Dorito out and to change their lives. When I think about my friendship circle, and I told some of my friends that are speaking to you today, those are young men and women that can all pinpoint the moment where they encountered you, and they can pinpoint how it moved their life forward in some way. You'll never meet these millions and millions of people, but I just want you to know for sure that they're there, and they're watching now, and they've been watching, and they'll continue to watch. So, Jocko, thank you.
It's been an honor. It was an honor to serve, and thanks for having me on here. Appreciate it.
Jocko Willink discusses the significance of having a strong why to navigate through adversity. He illustrates this with examples ranging from personal rejection to profound loss, such as the death of a loved one. The conversation touches on how a compelling reason, whether it's proving someone wrong or fulfilling a promise, can be a driving force in overcoming challenges. Anecdotes, including one about a friend enduring SEAL training, highlight how commitment to a goal can supersede obstacles. He suggests that ultimately success often hinges on genuine desire rather than external factors. They note that many who fail to persevere tend to attribute it to reasons other than quitting, emphasizing the complex psychology behind resilience. The destructive nature of excuses and the concept of extreme ownership. Excuses are portrayed as adversaries that prevent individuals from achieving their goals, leading to loss and frustration if allowed to dominate. Extreme ownership, on the other hand, involves taking full responsibility for one's actions and circumstances, even when it's uncomfortable or painful. It's emphasized that this mindset is crucial for progress and empowerment, as it grants individuals control over their destinies. Transitioning from a pattern of excuse-making to extreme ownership can be challenging but ultimately liberating. Building confidence, especially in high-pressure situations like leadership roles, requires a strategic approach. For example, in the context of a young officer in the SEAL teams, confidence can be nurtured through gradual exposure to manageable tasks. By assigning responsibilities that match their abilities and progressively increasing the challenge level, individuals can build confidence over time. This approach balances pushing individuals out of their comfort zones with ensuring they don't feel overwhelmed. Similarly, in personal development, the process involves a cycle of training, studying, working, and practicing. Incremental exposure therapy, such as starting with small speaking engagements and gradually scaling up, helps overcome fears and builds confidence. The discussion delves into the complexities of managing emotions, particularly for men who often receive conflicting messages about expressing them. It's acknowledged that suppressing emotions or letting them dominate decision-making are both ineffective approaches. Instead, it's recommended to acknowledge emotions but not let them dictate actions entirely. Jocko advises against using emotional turmoil as an excuse for making poor decisions, emphasizing the need for emotional control and resilience. The conversation also highlights the importance of embracing emotions without allowing them to overwhelm or derail one's life. It's suggested that emotions should be considered alongside other factors when making decisions, rather than being the sole determining factor. An analogy is drawn to being lost in the woods, where the advice is to start moving forward, even if the direction isn't clear, rather than remaining stagnant. This proactive approach is seen as essential for gaining clarity and making progress, even if it means potentially correcting course along the way. Discipline equals freedom, because it allows you to gain control over various aspects of your life. Without discipline, you become enslaved to negative consequences such as disease, financial struggles, and time mismanagement. Conversely, having self-discipline empowers you to make healthier choices. Work hard, manage your time effectively, and ultimately achieve freedom. Jocko emphasizes that discipline is essential for personal growth and resilience. He urges listeners, especially younger ones, to start cultivating discipline immediately by making small changes like exercising and avoiding unhealthy habits. Failure to develop discipline leads to being shackled by undesirable circumstances and dependencies, while embracing discipline paves the way for a life of freedom and self-reliance.